Good evening, everyone. I'll be presenting on Vic Zebar's paper, Ensuring a More Personalized Approach, a Strategy for Differentiated Teaching in Schools. This paper aims to clarify and define differentiated teaching from the misunderstandings in personalization in schools and how it is taught. Personalization requires taking a highly structured and responsive approach to each child and young person's learning in order that all are able to progress or achieve and participate. This personalized approach to teaching does not require an individual learning program for each student, but stresses the importance of an inclusive classroom which fosters students' engagement developed through the classroom organization and content to fit the needs and requirements of students. It is teaching with keeping the child in mind, knowing that not all students will understand in the same way, need the same length of time, or need the same amount of support. It requires an understanding of where each student is in relation to the learning outcome and reflection upon how the planning and teaching was approached and can be improved. Zebar highlights classroom grouping and guided learning as two overarching teaching strategies that contribute to differentiation in teaching. Classroom grouping requires careful planning and applied flexibility to support personalized teaching and learning. Strategic organization of classes recognize and assist in catering to students' strengths and weaknesses, while making sure the task requirements enable all students to achieve the lesson's goal. In small groups, guided learning can be integrated into lessons, providing the link between whole class and independent work. Zebar describes this as a powerful procedure for pitching work at appropriate levels for different groups within the class, so that all children and young people make good progress. The use of guided learning enables teachers to intervene in sustained and proactive ways. When it is planned over a sequence of lessons, effective practice responds to the more immediate needs of students by intervening at the point of learning. Zebar suggests a series of planned stages to provide maximum benefits for guided sessions, such as an explanation of the object and clarification of strategies to be used, the application by the students, typically it's students working on their own or in pairs, and a group review with the teacher about the work in which the student is engaged with reflection on the progress and the next step. An interesting aspect of Zebar's article is the outline of three interlinked strategies. These are assessment, differentiation of instruction, and professional learning and data. Teachers need to assess students to understand where each student is at for personalized learning to be effective. Zebar states this requires highly skilled teachers using appropriate and quality assessments. One of the difficulties is to create assessments which are simple to administer and can quickly assess the student's current level of knowledge on a grade level scale. Zebar provides an example of a computer-based program to help with assessment. It uses data from exams, such as NAPLAN, to assess students who are performing below or above expected level. While there are many methods to assess students' data, this can be a difficult and time-consuming process to do on a regular basis. However, in terms of personalized learning, assessment is necessary to thoroughly understand the student's current level. Differentiation of instruction is at the heart of personalized learning and needs to be built on a foundation of consistency of instructional practice. This in turn supports and develops teachers to progressively work like the best teacher in school. So in order to support differentiated learning, there needs to be in place a common instruction model for teachers to use in school to help guide lessons towards achieving the intended objective of the lesson. An effective instructional model is one by which students can plan their lessons in consistent and effective ways and work together to improve the range of teaching strategies that they adopt. Once a model is in place, it is then possible to differentiate instruction to meet the needs of different types of learners. The importance of professional learning for teachers is to provide adequate understanding and confidence to bring about change in the classroom at school. Professional training is rarely transferable to the classroom. However, collaborative coaching is an effective way to bring about professional training into the classroom. Teachers who work together, observing each other's classes, work as a team to improve teaching practice. It's through the development of mutual coaching, feedback, and support that bring about a greater understanding of how to differentiate in the classroom. 3 teachers per team is an ideal number as it allows for equal involvement, creates less distractions, and creates a less threatening team situation. The professional learning teams can take advantage of student data to inform their teaching. Data such as questionnaire feedback can help develop individual professional development plans based on specific areas of pedagogy in need of strengthening, and help measure changes in specific targeted areas over time. This data can also be used to identify common problems of practice, used to develop an action plan to address these problems, and takes account of the instructional support the school and leadership team provides. Student feedback data is important for teachers to first examine the results and then to share the results with the other members of their team to gain different perspectives, insights, and improved thinking strategies related to the feedback results. Sharing the student feedback with other aspects of the school can lead to broader changes on a pedagogical level. Another interesting aspect of this article is Tomlinson's 5 principles for effective differentiation of instruction. These 5 principles provide a sound understanding of how differentiation can be approached. The first principle is that a differentiated classroom is flexible. A flexible classroom is one that varies the task to suit the needs of individuals and groups in the class. The flexible classroom avoids having set routines, tasks, or ways of operating. Achieving this involves regularly reviewing the classroom organization, understanding students' viewpoints, changing plans as required, and constant monitoring to find ways to improve. Next is the use of assessment in differentiation. Tomlinson states assessment should be utilized to understand students' readiness and interest prior to coursework, and other formative assessments are to be completed during the unit of work to help guide the planning of the next instructional unit. Tasks can be as simple as exit cards or observations, one-on-one conversations to identify student understanding, and if there is a need to reteach for lower students or extend the difficulty for higher students. Most importantly, the assessments need to be valid in what they test, and how the data is utilized to correctly identify students' requirements. Next, Tomlinson also supports how students are grouped together can positively affect and maximize learning, providing a wide variety of learning opportunities. Grouping is important to accommodate the needs of learners by allowing for students to work together with different groups of learners for targeted guided instruction. Teachers need to plan how to incorporate different ways in which to group students together to maximize results, such as small groups of students with similar readiness or interests. Respectful activities take into account learners' levels, interests, learning styles, and cultural or religious backgrounds. Tasks need to be challenging, interesting, and worth doing, regardless of the task students undertake in a differentiated classroom. If students in one group have a task that seems more engaging, while another group has a simple worksheet, or required to produce a 5-page essay as opposed to paint a picture, differentiated learning has not been achieved, and the students will be uncomfortable with the perceived status in the classroom. Lastly, students involve their own learning are more motivated and achieve better results and should be involved as much as possible in developing the classroom. A part of this comes from building the classroom community of which students are supported, accepted, and respected. When students help each other to produce, they share in others' successes. All of these principles require schools to consider and choose what would be the best fit for their situation. There is no one perfect approach. It needs to be developed over time for the school to truly benefit from differentiated learning. This article is interesting to see differentiated learning's influence on the IB and how this approach builds upon itself over time. I also see a lot of aspects of differentiation are mostly common sense and things that most experienced teachers would already do to varying degrees. Differentiated classrooms are a positive way to react to the increasing diversity in the modern classroom. That being said, differentiated learning does require additional planning and careful consideration for it to be beneficial for students and teachers. It requires experienced and quality teachers who are willing to break away from creating one lesson for all students and need an in-depth understanding of course content. Teachers need to be willing to take the time to work with students at different levels while allowing other students to work on their own. It might not fit all contexts, courses, and teaching styles. Additionally, some students might feel ignored with the teacher giving extra help to certain groups, and also might create difficulties in making sure that all students reach the daily goal. A few of the pluses are teachers can be creative in their approaches, and there is added flexibility and increased engagement for students. Differentiation sees students as individuals working towards providing them with what they need to succeed by addressing their level and interests, while it also requires the students to be more active and responsible in their learning. Differentiation reflects a positive shift in thinking towards teaching and learning classroom relationships and expectations. I leave you with a quote from Tomlinson and Edison. If, as teachers, if we increase our understanding of who we teach and what we teach, we are more likely to be flexible in how we teach. Thank you for listening.